In Kenya, religious persecution is a serious issue, particularly in 10 counties where the Bible is not accepted and Christians face severe repercussions for their faith. This complex situation has historical roots and is influenced by various socio-political dynamics and extremist activities. Understanding how this situation escalated requires a deep dive into the historical, cultural, and political contexts that have shaped these regions. Before we dive into these 10 counties, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Number 1. Mandera County. Mandera County, situated in northeastern Kenya, shares a long and porous border with Somalia, which makes it particularly vulnerable to cross-border influences and militant incursions. The majority of Mandera's population is of Somali ethnicity and adheres to Islam. Historically, this region has been marginalized economically and politically by the central government, leading to a sense of alienation and neglect among its residents. The infiltration of Al-Shabaab, an Islamist militant group based in Somalia, has significantly exacerbated the situation in Mandera. Al-Shabaab militants frequently cross into Mandera, imposing their strict interpretation of Islam and targeting those who do not comply, particularly Christians. These extremists often view Christianity not just as a different religion, but as a threat to their ideological control. Christians in Mandera live in constant fear of violence. There have been numerous incidents where Christians have been singled out for execution, their property is destroyed, and their churches attacked. The fear of reprisal keeps many Christians from openly practicing their faith or possessing a Bible. 2. Wajir County. Wajir County, also in northeastern Kenya, faces similar challenges to Mandera due to its geographic location and demographic composition. The county is predominantly inhabited by Somali Muslims, and like Mandera, it has been largely neglected in terms of infrastructure development and public services. This neglect has fostered an environment ripe for extremist influence. Al-Shabaab has a significant presence in Wajir, exploiting local grievances to recruit and radicalize young people. Christians in Wajir are often viewed with suspicion and hostility. The extremist narrative propagated by Al-Shabaab labels Christians as enemies of Islam, leading to targeted attacks against them. These attacks include bombings of churches, murders, and intimidation. The lack of effective law enforcement and security measures in Wajir makes it extremely difficult for Christians to find protection or justice. 3. Garissa County. Garissa County is another northeastern region with a significant Muslim majority. It has a history of violent attacks on Christians, most notably the Garissa University College attack in 2015, where Al-Shabaab militants killed 148 people, primarily Christian students. This tragic event highlighted the severe risks Christians face in Garissa. The county's proximity to Somalia has made it a hotbed for extremist activity. Al-Shabaab exploits the socioeconomic grievances of the local population, many of whom feel marginalized by the central government. The militants use terror tactics to enforce their strict religious ideology, targeting Christians and anyone who opposes their views. Christians in Garissa live under constant threat, making it difficult for them to practice their faith openly. The fear of being targeted for their beliefs leads many to hide their Bibles and conduct worship in secret. 4. Lamu County. Lamu County, located on the Kenyan coast, has a diverse population with a significant Muslim presence. Historically, Lamu was a major center for trade with the Islamic world, and this historical connection has deeply embedded Islamic culture in the region. In recent years, Lamu has experienced an increase in religious tension and extremist activity. Al-Shabaab has been active in Lamu, carrying out attacks on non-Muslims and targeting symbols of Christianity. The militants aim to create fear and division, enforcing their ideology through violence and intimidation. Christians in Lamu are often forced to hide their faith and avoid public displays of worship to avoid being targeted. Churches have been attacked, and Christians have been harassed, making it unsafe for them to possess Bibles or engage in religious activities openly. 5. Tana River County. Tana River County, also on the coast, has a mixed population that includes significant Muslim communities. The region has a history of ethnic and religious conflict, often exacerbated by competition for resources like land and water. These conflicts have sometimes taken on a religious dimension, with extremist groups exploiting the tensions. In Tana River, Christians have faced violence and intimidation from extremist elements who seek to impose their religious beliefs. The region's underdevelopment and economic struggles contribute to the instability, creating conditions where radical ideologies can thrive. Christians are often targeted for their faith, with incidents of harassment, violence, and destruction of property being reported. The fear of persecution forces many Christians to practice their faith in secret. 6. Kilifi County. Kilifi County, another coastal region, has areas with significant Muslim populations. While generally more peaceful than some northeastern counties, Kilifi has pockets where religious intolerance exists. These areas have seen a rise in radicalization, with extremists targeting Christians. The economic struggles of the region, combined with historical ties to the Islamic world, contribute to the complex religious dynamics. Christians in Kilifi have reported incidents of harassment and threats, particularly in areas where extremist influence is stronger. The fear of violence leads many to hide their faith and avoid public worship. Churches in these areas face the threat of attacks, and Christians are often wary of openly displaying their religious symbols or carrying Bibles. 7. Marsabit County. Marsabit County, located in northern Kenya, is ethnically and religiously diverse, with a mix of Muslim and Christian communities. The region has a history of ethnic conflicts, which often intersect with religious tensions. Extremist groups have exploited these conflicts, targeting Christians and using violence to impose their ideologies. The remote location and underdevelopment of Marsabit contribute to its vulnerability. Christians in Marsabit face harassment and violence, particularly during periods of heightened ethnic tension. The presence of extremists further exacerbates these issues, making it dangerous for Christians to practice their faith openly. Incidents of church attacks, threats, and violence against Christians are reported, forcing many to worship in secret and hide their Bibles. 8. Isiolo County. Isiolo County, situated in northern Kenya, serves as a strategic gateway between the north and the rest of the country. It has a significant Muslim population and has seen rising tensions between Muslim and Christian communities. These tensions are often fueled by competition for resources and political influence. Extremists use Isiolo's strategic location to spread their influence, leading to incidents of violence and intimidation against Christians. Christians in Isiolo face threats and harassment, making it difficult for them to practice their faith safely. The socio-economic challenges of the region, including poverty and lack of infrastructure, contribute to these tensions. Extremists exploit these conditions, targeting Christians and creating an atmosphere of fear and persecution. 9. West Pokot County. West Pokot County, located in the Rift Valley, has a predominantly pastoralist population with a mix of religious beliefs. Although it is less affected by extremist groups compared to northeastern counties, there are still incidents of religious intolerance. Economic hardships and local conflicts can sometimes spill over to religious persecution, with Christians facing threats for their beliefs. In West Pokot, religious tensions are often intertwined with ethnic conflicts. Extremists have occasionally targeted Christian communities, exploiting local grievances and economic struggles. Christians in West Pokot have reported incidents of harassment and violence, making it unsafe for them to practice their faith openly. The fear of persecution leads many to hide their religious practices and avoid public worship. 10. Turkana County. Turkana County, in northwestern Kenya, is primarily inhabited by the Turkana people, who practice Christianity and indigenous beliefs. Despite the Christian majority, the region faces challenges due to its proximity to unstable neighboring countries and the influx of refugees. Extremist groups occasionally target Christian communities, exploiting the region's vulnerabilities and the government's limited presence. The remote and underdeveloped nature of Turkana makes it difficult for the government to provide adequate security and services. This lack of support leaves Christian communities vulnerable to extremist attacks. Incidents of violence, harassment, and intimidation against Christians are reported, forcing many to practice their faith in secret. The fear of persecution and the constant threat of violence make it challenging for Christians to live openly and safely. In summary, religious persecution in these 10 counties of Kenya is a result of a complex interplay of historical, economic, and political factors. Extremist groups like Al-Shabaab exploit local grievances and economic marginalization to spread their radical ideologies, targeting Christians for violence and intimidation. Addressing this issue requires comprehensive strategies, including promoting interfaith dialogue, improving economic conditions, and ensuring security operations respect human rights. By tackling these root causes, Kenya can work towards a future where all its citizens can practice their faith without fear.